Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Digital Insights, Mass Notification and Systems Integration. My name is Kevin Bell. I'm the subject matter expert for Convergence Mass Notification Integration. And today we are going to go over mass notification as a general overview. We're going to go over a mass notification integration that is specific towards convergence approach. We're going to go over a mass notification and conceptual architecture that might apply to your campus or your facility or your building. We're going to go through the hardware notification review, and these are the endpoints we use to fill in the existing buildings that do not have mass notification, but they do have other endpoints. We're going to go do a live recording of a Hyperspike speaker demo where I've done a demonstration about 3 weeks ago. So you'll hear how that Hyperspike speaker sounds, and here we go. So the objective of mass notification is to protect life by indicating the existence of an emergency and instruct people the necessary and appropriate reactions and how to respond to a situation. How we do that is by providing real-time information and instructions to people in buildings, people outside, people in installations, and you do that through intelligible voice communication along with visible signals. And this is important. The intelligible voice communication is very different from a fire alarm system because a fire alarm system, it sends out a signal that there's a fire and then it asks you to evacuate a building. Mass notification, the danger, the hazard may be outside the building, so we don't want you to evacuate the building. And by code, the NFPA actually has mass notification superseding fire alarm, which means if there's a fire and then there's a mass notification event, the mass notification event supersedes it. And the reason it supersedes it is a couple of examples. Is one, there could be a disgruntled ex-employee or spouse who's trying to get someone out of the building and then we're waiting outside with a rifle to pick them off. One of the easiest ways to do that is to pull a fire alarm pull station or set off a sprinkler head. Everyone will evacuate into their muster stations, and that ex-employee typically will know where the muster stations are. He'll wait out there with his gun and pick them off. So this is why NFPA code allows mass notification that supersedes fire alarm. Because if you have an active shooter uh, button or an app or a gunshot detection picks it up, we want people to shelter in place. We don't want them to evacuate the building. We also, if there's a tornado coming and there's a trash can fire, or let's just say a piece of electronic equipment smokes and set off a smoke detector or a microwave oven with popcorn, we don't want the people evacuating the building into the path of a tornado, flash flood, or dangerous lightning. So let's look at the mass notification ecosystem. So the integration of the mass notification system is just not one device. It's not one system. It's not something you buy over the counter, but it's actually an overall integration of all of these components. These are systems that are already in your building. These are first responders, uh, and you're looking at this overall chart, and you're wondering, what does building automation systems have to do with mass notification? What does elevators have to do with mass notification? What does access control have to do with mass notification? Well, here at Convergent, what we do is we integrate all these systems, but we also think outside the box. We try to cover every type of hazard there may be. So let's start with building automations. What does that have to do with mass notification integration? Well, some facilities are located by railroad tracks. Those railroad tracks carry cars with dangerous chemicals. There have been a lot of derailments where the chemical has spilled out, whether it's by train, truck, whether it's on site. Hospitals have dangerous chemicals. Some college campuses, like Georgia Tech, they have dangerous chemicals that they experiment with. If those chemicals are released into the atmosphere, most building automation systems, HVAC systems, have outside makeup air fans. These outside makeup air fans bring in fresh air along with the air conditioned air so you can have a healthy breathing environment within the building. Well, if there's a chemical spill outside, we want those fans to shut down immediately. So we integrate that into the solution. What we do is we also, if there's a shooter that comes in the building, and whether you have a shooter detection module, as you see in the bottom of the slide, or you have an active shooter button at the security desk or panic buttons throughout the building, you want to isolate that shooter. They're typically going to come in the front lobby of a building that has an elevator or stairwells. And what we do is we integrate that to the fire alarm system. So if a shooter detection module picks up a shooter, or we get a shooter detection, active shooter signal, we have the elevators recall from the floor where the active shooter was called. So the active shooter cannot get up in the building. At the same time, we lock down those stairwell doors that has access control on it. So the shooter can't get up the building, then we effectively trap the shooter. And as soon as those modules go off, first responders have been notified. So they're en route. Um, so those are examples with your video access systems. We can integrate to where if someone hits the button, if a module goes off, the nearest cameras will pop up and we can actually send that image to first responders. We can send it to public safety. So what we do here is we take all of your existing assets. So for instance, your infrastructure, you have desktop computers, laptop computers, you have VoIP phones. Most people are switching over to VoIP phones. Digital signage throughout the corridors, break rooms, gymnasiums. Some college campuses or municipalities have cable TV stations, and you either will have a voice evacuation fire alarm system if you have one, or a horn strobe system. So that's your existing infrastructure. So what we like to do at Convergent is we're not trying to tell you have to buy everything brand new in order to have a mass notification system. You already have a lot of your components there as in your existing infrastructure. So what we do is we enhance your environment by adding these devices, such as this beacon or outdoor high power speaker arrays, these easy buttons, LED marquees, and mobile devices by way of mobile apps, which I'll go through each of these in the coming slides. So on a typical campus, this is what our conceptual design looks like on a typical campus. You have several buildings on your campus, or you may have one building. What we like to do is, and we get with IT, we find out if we can reside on their network, but we prefer it if IT has spare fiber in each building that they could provide us, and then we can actually build our own life safety network. And the life safety network, we will be using these Cisco switches. These are the only switches UL864 listed for mass notification. They're built for survivability. They can reside in fire alarm panels, so they have battery backup, and and then they have their own life safety network. And I have a customer who loved this system, this network, that they actually took their security cameras and card access systems and put it on the life safety network because it doesn't have to reside on the customer's LAN, and we can manage it. So IT doesn't have to manage it. IT will host the server, but then we would manage the network, and it doesn't take away from their bandwidth. So here's a shooter detection module, which I'll get into the technology there. You have a mobile app where all your colleagues and employees can receive emergency messages. We have a remote web client software that we have it pushed onto each desktop and laptop through IT. So it's not like we have to install them on everyone's computer. IT can do that just overnight. And then at security, if you have a VIC or you have a command center, security command center, that's where we would have the head in. We can incorporate fireworks. And if you have a small building that doesn't have fire alarm, it doesn't have a paging system for us to integrate into, we can put these beacons in there with these self-amplified speakers, and we can put mass notification in any small building, shop, or medium-sized building with just this beacon that only requires Cat5 with PoE and a self-amplified speaker. And this is very cost-effective. Now, the statistics on active shooter is 18 minutes is the average response time if you don't have any type of automated notification. The average length of a shooter event is only 12 minutes. So by the time first responder gets there, it's typically over. But if you have any type of gunshot detection alert system, panic buttons, or any way to activate the event, the first responders can be notified in 1 minute and they can be there in under 5 minutes. So it's very important, that statistic. Now, as integrators, we have a lot of technology partners. We have several technology partners that manufacture shooter detection sensors. This is one of our technology partners, shooter detection systems. And their sensor, we're fans of their sensor because they have the least amount of false alarms. They hardly have any false alarms. And the reason that is because there's an acoustical bang sensor that can detect 22 caliber signature and up. But if you drop a book on the floor, or if there's construction nearby and someone is using a Hilti gun, shooting nails into a stud, that can give you a false alarm because that will give you an acoustical bang signature of 22 calibers and up. So this infrared flash sensor is what we like about it because it takes an activation of the acoustical bang sensor and the muzzle flash of a gun for them to actually report an active shooter. This device gets mounted about 12, 10 to 12 feet above the finished floor on the wall, and it can cover 40 feet in each direction in a 180 arc. The beacons that I mentioned, these beacons will send will we respond from text messages, and as I said, Cat5 with PoE off of a switch is all that's needed. So there is not a lot of wiring and the disruptions to deploy this of your facility. And there's a piezo alarm here that has a 91 dB piercing um, alert that gets everyone's attention along with the strolling LEDs. Set it up in whatever color you want. And this gets everyone attention. And this alone, you could put in a shop, you could put in a small building that doesn't have any type of massification. Gets everybody attention. They can see that either there's a tornado or there's a shooter, and then you'll follow the protocols that you typically have within your facility. The verbiage is based on what your emergency management plan is. If you don't have one, we can co-author one with you. Now, if you want to add, this is visual, if you wanted to add audible intelligent messaging to that, we can add a self-amplified speaker in your ceiling, and they will get the same message that we have here, but it will verbally communicate that message throughout the building. So you'll have a visual message and you'll have an audio message. Or you can have this speaker by itself deployed anywhere you like. Again, all we need is a Cat5 with PoE, and you have mass notification in areas where you have nothing. The desktops are basically, this is the client that we push onto the desktop. And when there's an event, it takes over your entire screen. There's three versions of this desktop takeover. There's the entire takeover screen, as you see to the top left. There's the cold blue pop-up box that hospitals like to use. And typically in healthcare and hospitals, they don't announce or activate fire alarms. They have codes, and they're trained to evacuate the people from the building or move them to two different smoke zones. And then the bottom, we have a ticker tape where this is a public service announcement. This is not an emergency announcement. This is an announcement that the internet could be down, or it can be in COVID announcement, just any public service announcement. I have a large hospital health system here in Atlanta that uses this for public service announcements. But if there's a tornado or an imminent threat, then we want to take over the entire desktop. So once these clients are pushed out by IT, the individuals will just enroll with the location of the building, what room number they're in, their name, and then you can have preset messages of incident types. It could be a health situation, it could be irate customer, it could be a forklift accident or any type of emergency, or they could put it in manually here. We can also put shortcuts for lockdown, evacuation, tornado. Your security can have these, or your emergency managers would have these. We will recommend giving it to all the employees. And we have little panic buttons. Now, with security and admin and receptionists, we are advocates of these, I call them easy buttons, because in an emergency situation, a lot of the security guards and admins and receptionists are not used to having an active threat or an active shooter or an emergency. So we can actually create these custom labeled buttons. Everyone has a different verbiage that they want on the button. So it could be lockdown, it could be active threat, it could be severe weather. But I also recommend that you have a false alarm button and you have a all clear button. This way, all you have to do is push the button, because the whole goal is integrate all these devices and give you a one button push solution. Once you enroll with that the actual client, you have the ability to actually add a USB panic button, and it'll just be a plug and play. Once the client is on the desktop, all you have to do is plug this into your laptop or your workstation throughout the USB port. And automatically, if there's an event, you can program these for active threat, irate customer. Once you press that button, your first responders, public safety, police, wherever it goes, will have your exact location. So typically in the past, panic buttons, we used to have wireless panic buttons. We have to have wireless repeaters, or we have to hardwire it, pull wire everywhere. This is a wonderful feature about this because this is strictly plug and play, very, very inexpensive, and easy to deploy anywhere you like, whether it's a client. The mobile apps, there are two versions of the mobile app. There's a activators app, which your first responders, police, public safety will have, where they can activate an event no matter where they are, as long as they have that app and connectivity via internet or the cellular service. And they can activate a active shooter event, severe weather, fire, anything that they want. This is totally customized. We customize and we work with you for what events you want, what message you want. And I have to say, this is all scalable. Everything I'm showing you is scalable. You can start off with the software, which includes desktop takeover and the mobile app. And then you can build it up to the other devices I'm showing you. So this is a view for the recipient apps. The recipient app will have request help, fire, medical emergency, active shooter, suspicious person. If you don't want your employees or your colleagues to have all of these as a recipient, you can just, and I'll tell you, most of them will have medical emergency, request help, or a suspicious person. The good thing about this app, if there's a suspicious person or suspicious package, you can actually press that button, take a picture of the package, send it to your first responders or public safety, and what they will see is where you are located on the campus, what that suspicious package or person looks like, and her suspicious person is an action figure. And the other great thing is when they enroll in the app, they will put down their name, phone number, age optional, picture optional. But the most important thing is if they're allergic to penicillin, they have a pacemaker, they have any medical conditions that the first responders need to know about, especially if they push the medical button and they say, let's say they pass out. We know exactly where they are. We know what they're allergic to. And as I say before, it could take 18 minutes for a first responder to get there. With this, we'll know immediately and we can dispatch the first responders. So the Activators app has preset recordings again, so you don't have to type the message. You can put an active thread, severe weather, and they can activate it from that. But everyone typically doesn't have that ability as far as the employees. The VoIP phone integration. There are going to be instances where you may not have a desktop, you may not have a laptop, there may not be digital signage, there may not be any voice evacuation system, and you have customers on the site. In the waiting room, we typically have a VoIP phone, or areas where there's none of the items I just mentioned. If you have a VoIP phone, we can integrate into this phone through SIP, and we can actually display the exact same message we're sending out everywhere simultaneously with that one button push, and we can have an audio message come out of that phone as well. So we can integrate with most VoIP phones that are on the market today. Your digital signage and cable TV override, we can actually integrate into that. And we can integrate into any fire alarm system. It doesn't matter which one. Most fire alarm systems in large facilities and medium facilities are addressable. So if you're at the panel, it tells you where the fire is. But the announcement typically is there's a fire, please evacuate the building. Well, what we like is we can actually tell you exactly where the fire is through integration. So smoke detector, first floor in front of room 325 or 125, you know there's a fire there. And if you're evacuating the building, you know not to go past that actual room. Regular fire alarm system is just telling you to evacuate the building. It's a large building. You want to know which way not to go. You want to go away from the hazard. So that's why this integration that we provide is very critical for fire. LED marquees, these are typically located in warehouses. or a large manufacturing area high up on the ceiling when it shows the time when there's not an event. But if there's an event, we typically will put a siren or a strobe, but you'll actually get to see what the message is. Again, why this is important, because some of those manufacturing environments have a very high noise ambient level. So you want to be able to get the message. Again, do you evacuate the building or do you shelter in place? Is there a shooter? Is there a tornado? We want to be able to give the message. If they can't hear the message, we want to be able to see the message. So this is another good device. Again, all you need is Cat5 with PoE. We can deploy this anywhere in your facility. I did speak about the fire alarm system. The fire alarm system, as far as if you have a voice evacuation fire alarm system, that is the best backbone for mass notification to reside on, because only the fire alarm system, unlike a paging system, is inspected by the fire marshal, is supervised by the system and a monitoring company. It's built for survivability. The wiring in the ceiling is made to withstand a fire for 2 hours. It's the panels located in a fire rated room to withstand fire for 2 hours. So if you have a voice evacuation fire alarm system, you have 80% of mass notification conquered audibly right there. So we love integrating with voice evacuation fire alarm systems. If you are planning to upgrade your fire alarm system in a building, I would recommend that instead of putting a horn strobe system in it, you put a voice evacuation fire alarm system in there. The only difference is instead of a horn strobe, you're using a speaker strobe. Instead of a cable with 2 conductors, you have them pull a cable with 4 conductors. That there's no difference in labor. The labor is the same, but what you're getting is mass notification throughout your facility, and you really didn't spend that much more money, just an audio source unit instead of a horn strobe unit. So that's what I would recommend. And the software that's also a feature that's included with the software is Alertus Threatwatcher. And what this does is it gives you up to the minute warnings on severe weather. The standard alerts include all these. These don't apply in all regions, but the most important ones to me is a tornado warning, and you can have it automatically turn on the system and make the severe weather announcement, take shelter, or you can have first responders take control of that. Every campus, every facility is different on how they want to activate this. Um, a good optional feature is lightning strike display. So it's near real time. So I have a lot of chemical facilities, oil refineries, outside, a lot of metal, a lot of lightning strikes, especially in Texas and Salt Lake City, for instance. And they want to know when there's lightning. And this applies to college campuses. You have students on the tarmac, you have students in the field. We want to know when there's lightning near. And so we get these directly from NOAA, and push these out automatically, or we can have first responders. I would do lightning strike automatically. I would do tornado warnings automatically, but it's up to you. You can customize them however you want. So everything I just showed you here, it's all scalable. You don't have to deploy these at one time. You can build a 5-year plan. We can work with you to build it, put it into your 5-year fiscal budget. But the basis for it, you can get started with just software for desktop takeover. You can deploy beacons where you want, however you want, and the app comes with it as well. So now I'm going to talk about the outdoor giant voice speakers. So as I said earlier, we're integrators and we have a lot of technology partners. And several of those technology partners, they manufacture high power speaker arrays. Now we've come to settle on hyperspike speakers, and Citadel, we just installed one on the top of this iconic tower, and you can't see it. And it's the reason why you can't see it is because of the technology does not require these big tall towers with these horns. We actually use a speaker called Hyperspike, and this is a 1600. This speaker can give you clear intelligibility, uh, omnidirectional, so 360 for 1.5 miles. So this is the Citadel's campus, and this is sending out up to this green area is giving you 79 decibel levels of clear intelligibility, right? And then we put the smaller version, the 650 on a stadium, omnidirectional for 3/4 of a mile, clear, intelligible messaging. And with the city of Charleston didn't have a problem with this message spilling in the neighborhood. They want to know if there's a shooter. They want to know if there's severe weather. So we're actually covering all of the Citadel and the stadium, but there's a high school right here. We're covering that with messaging as well and the surrounding neighborhoods. So that's a wonderful advantage. But this speaker is only, uh, it's less than 2 feet tall. It weighs 40 pounds. So no giant mast, no poles to drill into the ground, no unsightly, aesthetic looking horns, and the technology is second to none. This is what it looks like at the City of Atlanta's government campus. We have that small 650 in front of City Hall, but this is the Capitol. This is actually, that 650 goes 1.5 miles. It's actually covering this entire area with clear voice intelligibility. This is actually the Fulton County campus. This is the government parking deck with, we have a 650 there covering this area. And then this is municipal court. We have it in top of the municipal court spire. You can't see it, but it's inside the structural art spire that's there, but it's giving 1.5 miles of clear intelligibility covering the entire downtown campus. Just 3 speakers, no cranes, no special equipment, and we got those on top of the building. So my next slide I'm going to show you is going to be a live demonstration that I used the 1600. I was on top of a building about a 1/4 mile away from the person filming this. So I'm going to play this just so you can hear how clear it is from a 1/4 mile away, but they were able to hear it downtown to where a news truck came and was wondering what was going on. So here we go. And we'll pause it here. I am located right at the top of that building. You can see just the very top of that speaker, but it's a 1/4 mile away on the top of that building.
The test of the ESD mass notification system is ending. We appreciate your cooperation and hope that you will consider ESD for all of your mass notification emergency communication needs. We appreciate the opportunity to present this new and exciting lightweight speaker technology. Please resume your normal operation and have a wonderful day.
So that speaker that you just heard is this speaker. You can deploy it. Now this is at Texas Christian University, TCU. They have 9 of these deployed around the campus. And as you see, we have a sled with a weighted plate, rubber matting on the roof, a mast, and then the speaker itself. As I said, less than 2 feet tall, weighs 40 pounds. I was able to take that speaker on top of that roof and put it on a tripod just for demonstration purposes. And that brings me to another point that when we do sound modeling, and we've done sound modeling at the Citadel, but what helped us win this project was most of our other partners and our competitors have those high power speaker arrays. They have to bring it in on a truck trailer, and then they have a mast that goes up 22 feet. And then that mast, they give a demonstration from the ground level here. So you really can't tell what it sounds like. And also with sound modeling, you have to take into account these trees, these buildings. Yes, this will go this far if this was in the middle of the Nevada desert and there wasn't anything to block sound and no wind blowing. So what I like to do and what I love about these speakers is I can take the actual speaker and I can get on the roof and do an actual test. And I can have public safety and maintenance deploy their people around the campus and they can actually evaluate how the speaker sounds. And then we can evaluate where we want to place these without any type of disruption to your facilities, your campus, or your environment. So the reason we like those speakers is because they have a clear intelligibility message and it's done through sound pressure, not how loud, not how many watts we could pump out, but sound pressure. And that's why they outperform the other manufacturers. Because in audibility is how loud the sound is, but intelligibility is what is said. Fire alarm systems, audibility, yes, you want it as loud as as it can be, so we can tell the people to evacuate. But with the mass notification, we want intelligibility. We want to know what's going on and what should we do. So for incident management, intelligibility is most important. All right. Not all areas can receive can achieve intelligibility. I've had some canning plants and glass plants where we have to put in so many speakers, but it's just so loud. That's why we use multiple ways of alerting, such as the app, such as digital signage, strobe lighting, because some areas you just can't achieve good intelligibility. It just won't be able to do it. So hyperspike speakers, they're designed for high intelligibility. In NFPA, you have to have there's a thing called a speech transmission index, and it has a rating from the range is from 0 to 1. NFPA says you have to have a zero point 0.5 as a minimum. Well, Hyperspike is just right at almost perfect. They're at 0.91, their speech transmission index. So when we design your facility needs, we design it according to the environment. Having an omnidirectional speaker in a narrow enclosed environment is not good because it's going to echo off the wall. So we will use directional speakers. Okay, and this is an example. This is a FedEx truck dock, and we have directional speakers because it's narrow. And if we and we actually took speakers to this environment, we tested the omnidirectional and we tested the directional, and we show the customer using omnidirectional is too much echoing, which takes away intelligibility. We use directional, and it got through the high ambient noise level without any problem. So any of your facilities, everything I'm showing you, I'll get with my Convergint colleague, and we'll go and we'll look your facility over and come up with a plan. And what our goal is to provide you with a single point of activation, integrate all your available assets, your existing assets, and fill in the gaps where you don't have assets. And we use software, we use our technology partners, and we use technology partners that play well with other technology partners, and that's what's important. So that's why you've seen Alertus mostly through this presentation, because they play well with a lot of our technology partners. We use EST for fire alarm for the very same reason. We can integrate and bring in other fire alarm systems because most campus environments have different manufacturers as far as fire alarm systems, and so they can standardize on one, but you're still going to have different fire alarm systems. So you need a technology partner who can actually work with other technology partners so we can achieve our goal of providing you a single point of activation. So this is the end of my presentation. As I said, I am going to get with my colleagues. If you want me to visit your facility, do an assessment, put together conceptual design, we can do that. My information is right here. Right now, I'm ready for the Q&A session. If you have any questions, you can actually put it in the chat. And I am waiting to see if they are going to be Rebecca. If you could send me the questions, if there are any, and if there aren't any, I appreciate your time. Okay, I have 5 questions so far. All right, is there a monitor of the connection of the USB panic button? Yes, there is. So everything on the system is supervised by the server. So there's a Alertus server, the panic buttons, the beacon, digital signage, the apps. If anything is offline, or the actual beacons have battery backup, if the batteries are low, anything, the email will be sent out to whoever's the administrator of the server. I have some customers where large enterprise customers where I'll receive email as well, but email will get sent out on every device. I have another question. English only? No, we have bilingual messaging, and as I said before, every institution has a different verbiage of what that message is. I have a customer who doesn't want to use active shooter as the label. They want to use active threat. which I understand. An active, it may not be a shooter all the time. It could be somebody with a bow or a knife. So it's an active threat or just an irate customer. They have verbiage because you already have an action plan in place, right? A mass notification plan in place. We want to use that verbiage in your plan. If you don't have one, we'll co-author it with you. If you want bilingual, we can have your message recorded in any language that you want. So we have multiple languages. Um, Kevin, not for the group. I am in a CTC that doesn't have a fire division. Okay, we will have access. Okay, is there a monitor? Okay, I think that's the last question. I got just a few questions. If anybody else have any other questions, concerns, or if you would like to set up or schedule a private session about your facility, my contact information is shown up on the screen. I'll keep it up there for another 10 minutes. You can email me, you could call me, and or you can get in touch with your account executive who invited you here, and we can get together and set it up. I could come to your site, or we can do it virtually. This is what I do for Convergint, and I thank you all for participating.